Okay, so anyone who is tuned in, I'm just going to give it another couple of moments for people to come on. And what we'll be doing today is we'll be doing some mindfulness. So if you are joined in already, give me a comment, let me know you're here, and I'll give you a shout out. Sorry, now just getting this. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, so my name is Graham McCormack. I'm a life coach, a speaker, a mindfulness teacher, a workshop facilitator. I'm a man of many hats. But one of the most proud is that I am in active recovery, and I'm also in talks and in connections with Thomas Shanahan of Sober Active New York City. So I'm here today to do a mindfulness class. I'll be touching on aspects of my life story and everything else, but we can get into that in a few moments. If you're watching now, welcome. If you are watching later on, also welcome to you. Don't forget that Sober Active NYC is in Central Park every Wednesday for workouts, and it will also be virtual all the way up to October with plenty of mindfulness, meditation, breath work and workouts. So it covers all aspects of recovery and the process to getting there. So as I said, my name is Graham McCormack, and what we're going to do today is we're going to do some mindfulness. And mindfulness was absolutely huge in my recovery, in the process of getting me to recovery. But not just that, also the aspect after that, and it's staying in recovery. People think that getting to recovery is, it's the hardest aspect, and once you get there, it suddenly stops or it gets somebody easier. And for me, in my own experience, it does not. And I do get cravings, I do get urges, but with mindfulness, I'm able to become aware of them and make changes. And I came across mindfulness it was late 2014, early 2015. Now, at that point in my life, I was in basically absolute chaos. The finger was pressed on the button of self-destruction pretty heavily, and I couldn't take it off. And I was working with a psychiatrist at the time, and she called me in one day for a meeting, and we sat down, and she said, look, you only had a suicide attempt about 1 month ago, you're in crisis, and here's what may help. And what she was on about with what may help was called DBT. Now, it's short for dialectical behavior therapy. It's similar enough to cognitive behavior therapy, but it's more specific to the disorder that I was labelled with, and that is borderline personality disorder. So I agreed to do DBT. I was open to it, and it's a year-long program. When I heard it was a year-long program, I got really afraid that here we go again. Here's something that I wouldn't last, that it's not going to work, and in came the judgments and everything else. But I sat down with the psychotherapist for the very first session. Now, she sat me down, and I remember how compassionate and understanding she was, because I was talking for a while, and I was just speaking from my heart, and everything that was coming up, it was just, I was used to people reacting to what I would say with judgment or shock. Oh my God, I can't believe you're that unwell, or I can't believe you're that deep in addiction. But ultimately I sat down, felt that compassion and understanding from her. And she said, today we're going to do some mindfulness. And I said, okay, I'm open to that, let's do it. So she sat me down and she said, can you gently close your eyes for me? And so I did. I closed my eyes, and I came straight back out, and I jumped out. And she said, what was going on there? And I said to her, my therapist, I said, you're not in my mind. You don't know what's going on in my head. I'm scared of my own thoughts. And again, with the compassion and understanding, she said, that's okay. And never before did I feel or come across someone who was like that, who was so allowing of me to be as I am in that moment. And we started working together for the year, but throughout the year process, it was always in the back of my mind. I was like, what has made her like that? How is she such an understanding and compassionate person? What is she doing to be like that? And on the year-long therapy, mindfulness was a major aspect. The first 4 months of the therapy were mindfulness based. And I remember I was about 3 months in, and an incident had occurred. Something had happened. And I was arguing with my mother. And I got triggered, I got really emotionally dysregulated, and I felt the urge to use, which was my go-to. And I'd always remember that just as I observed that urge, I felt a slight pause. And in that moment, I understood that I had a choice to act on that urge or not, and go and use, and go and self-destruct, and go and destroy myself, and go and relapse. Never before leading up to that point, and I was using from 11 until the age of 28 with alcohol and drugs. Never before had I ever come across a pause in there and realization that I had a choice in this matter. And what I put that down to was my mindful practice and what I've been doing for roughly 3.5 months leading up to that point. And what I also observed was areas of myself. I was becoming more non-judgmental and more allowing or compassionate to others. And I said it to my therapist. And she said, it's the same with me. Mindfulness is basically what has made me who I am. Practicing mindfulness allows you to become more compassionate and understanding towards others, but also, more importantly, towards yourself. You see, mindfulness is without judgment. Mindfulness in a statement is purposefully becoming aware in the present moment non-judgmentally. So what that means is, surely you know the phrase, it is what it is. Well, that's mindfulness. It just is what it is without saying it's good, bad, right or wrong, or indifferent. And you can approach a mindful aspect to every area of your life. You can approach it to your recovery. You can approach it to your workouts. You can approach it to everyday things like eating, showering, brushing your teeth, communication, effective listening. Mindfulness can be used in any area of life. There's 2 forms of mindfulness. One is formal, which is you consciously put time aside to sit down and actually practice mindfulness. And it may look like putting in your earphones, putting on a YouTube video and closing your eyes. That would be formal practice. Now, informal is mindfulness on the go. And what I mean by that is just as you go about your everyday life, you can practice mindfulness there and then. And informal is where mindfulness practice really takes place. Because if you do 30 minutes, of formal practice, you have 23.5 hours of informal. And if you only do formal, then you're missing 23.5 hours of practice. That's the beauty of mindfulness. It's secular. You don't have to have any religious practices or beliefs in general. It's very, very practical, mindfulness, and that's also the beauty of it. So, without going any further, if you are currently still listening, which I hope you are, I absolutely challenge you to stay with me on this and practice the mindfulness that I'm going to put you through. What have you got to lose? What are you going to keep doing if you choose not to? You're just going to keep scrolling and possibly miss out on something that may serve you on some level? I challenge you to practice this mindfulness. Okay? So if I have your attention, which I hope you do, which I hope I do, I would ask you to either sit down in a comfortable position, if possible, and I would also like to ask you to close your eyes when I ask you. So with this practice, it's mindfulness of our breathing. Now, within mindful practice, a good approach to have is to hold no expectation of an outcome. And what I mean by that is don't expect this practice to be good and don't expect this practice to be bad. Let go of your expectations of what you're about to do and just allow whatever comes up to come up without judging it. Okay? So, if you are comfortable, I'd like to ask you to now close your eyes and just listen to my voice. So what I want you to do is when you're ready, take a big deep inhale, hold, and exhale. Inhale again. Hold, 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 and exhale. And continue that cycle of breathing. And now, keeping your eyes closed, listening to my voice, I'd now like to invite you to let go of the control of your breathing. See if you can just allow it to happen naturally and as it's meant to be in this moment. See if you can observe the breathing. Just become the observer and the witness. Just like a wildlife photographer who was seeing a lion through his lens for the first time. If your mind starts to wander, which is very natural, just acknowledge where your mind has gone and bring yourself back to observing your breathing. The deeper we get into this practice, the more you'll come to realize that there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do but breathe. Now we're going to really refine the practice and get laser focused on a certain area of our body where we feel our breathing. That area is one of your nostrils. Just continue to breathe and see which nostril comes into your awareness with every breath. Which nostril is more prominent? See if you can observe a sensation of the air possibly touching the hair within your nostril. See if you can really finely try and sense that. While you are observing, here's a gentle reminder. If your mind starts to wander, which is natural, just acknowledge where it's gone and bring yourself back to your breathing. And now, letting go of our focus on the nostril, we're going to move down the body into the abdomen. And see if you can observe the rise and the fall with every breath. Just as the ocean calmly comes to shore and goes back out, so does our breathing. This is the natural rhythm of your being. And now we're going to continue the silence that I've just given for another moment or two. And I'm going to hand the reins of control over to you. And within the silence that I'm going to give, if the mind starts to wander, I want you to guide yourself back to your breathing in the abdomen. And now to finish, letting go of our awareness on the abdomen. I want you to take back control and take 3 slow, deep, deliberate breaths. And when you are done, open your eyes and come back to the live. See if you can notice a sense of urgency to come back to the phone, start scrolling, or start listening again. And that's what it is for me in recovery. That sense of urgency, an urge to do something. And that's what I was on about at the beginning of this live when I spoke of I was in a situation and experience where I was triggered, emotionally dysregulated, and I was about to go over to my go-to, which was alcohol and drugs. But in that moment I observed an urge come up, and an urge to use, or an urge to act on that and use. And urges are everywhere in our life. If you check in with yourself and you feel like you have to go and use the bathroom, you'll feel an urge to go and do it. If you are hungry and you check in with yourself and you observe that, look, I'm hungry, you feel an urge to eat. Urges are everywhere, and urges with addiction are, for some people, they can be, rampant in their experience. They can always get them. I'm at a point in my life where I'm lucky where the urges, they do come and go, but only intermittently. They're not constant, and I'm very grateful for that. And the reason I feel that they're not constant is that I haven't acted on them in almost 4 years. I'll never forget the first year of recovery. The first even 3 months were, they were very challenging. Urges were present multiple times a day. I did not act on them. And then over time, within the first year, they started to ease off, and the intensity of them started to lessen. So what I would ask you to do, and it's a bit of a challenge because I'll be back on here next Friday also. It's a bit of a challenge in the way that I would like you to see if you can observe where your personal urges are in your life. So I gave examples there. If you're hungry, see if you can notice an urge to eat, or an urge to get food or cook food. Or if you need to go to the bathroom, see if you can observe the stage of urge to use the bathroom. And with urges, and when they come up, it's all about urge surfing. And for me, this is why I always use body language when I say urges. They come up for me, an urge to act, and I feel pulled or compelled to act on them. So urges come up for me like this. So what I tend to do is I tend to urge surf. Just surf that urge. Ride it like a wave without acting and choosing to act on it. Because at the end of the day, it's a choice. After the urge is a choice. The chain analysis of human behavior is thought, feeling, urge, choice, and then action. So if you can become mindfully aware of yourself in the urge stage and choose not to act on that, that's where your power lies. That's one. So that's a task for the week ahead. If you're watching this, I'm challenging you to do that, okay? And I would encourage you to give me some feedback next Friday. So that's 1. 2 is breathing. I just touched on it there. I just done the practice of mindfully observing our breath. And the thing is that, I'll ask you a question, okay, first. So if a boat was in the ocean, okay, and it was going really, really fast, okay, how would you stop it? I'll give you a minute if necessary. You'd drop the anchor, wouldn't you? You would. And that's the thing. The boat is in the ocean, you drop the anchor, and then it starts to settle down, and then it becomes centered. And your mind is that ocean, okay? Your thoughts are that boat, and your breath is your anchor. That's probably the best analogy I could come up with. Your mind is an ocean, your thoughts are that boat, and your breath is that anchor. So if you observe that you are constantly overthinking or anxious or you've racing thoughts, just think of that analogy. Okay, so ocean, boat's going pretty fast, my thoughts. How do I slow them down? You drop the anchor. And what I mean by actually dropping the anchor is checking in with the breath and staying with it while you observe it. And every time the mind comes in, oh my God, this needs attention. Oh my God, you have to do this. Oh my God, there's a deadline here. Or whatever your mind is telling you that, oh my God, this, you need to act on this. Here's a sense of urgency. Bring yourself back, like we did in the practice, to your breathing. And the good thing about this is that there's no limit as to how many times that you can bring yourself back. If you do a 10-minute mindful practice and you bring your mind back to breathing 100 times, that's okay. If you bring it back 400 times, oh my God, that's okay. There is no right or wrong. That's the beauty of mindfulness. If you observe that you have to constantly bring yourself back to your breathing and you start judging yourself as, I'm bad at this practice, or this never works, just note that all that's stopping you from actually feeling a bit better in that moment is the judgment. And a judgment is only a thought. And in mindfulness, it's non-judgmental. We drop judgments. We allow our mind to be as it is. We allow ourselves to bring ourselves back as many times as necessary while committing to the practice. So, we have 30 minutes up. I hope you like that. If you have any questions, you can drop them in now. I can give it another minute or two. If you have any feedback on the practice we just did, please let me know. And if not, I will see you all next Friday at 8 AM. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you all.